Assistant District Attorney C. Auguste Dupin is looking at the file of two ruthless siblings, Roderick and Madeline Usher, and their children. All of Roderick's children have been dead. Dupin makes a case against him because his pharma company deals in drugs, and then a man tells him that Roderick wants to meet you. Dupin goes to take his confession at his abandoned mansion where Roderick is waiting for him. Dupin laments the death of his children and asks him what you'll confess. Roderick says, I want to accept every charge against me, and starts telling his story. In 1953, my mother Eliza had an affair with Fortunato Pharmaceuticals' CEO William Longfellow. They are both William's illegitimate children, and William hated them both. Time passes, and one night their mother becomes very ill and refuses to go to the doctor to keep her soul pure. Roderick and Madeline go to William for help, but he scolds them and refuses to help. The next morning, they found their mother dead. To keep Eliza's body pure, they decide not to tell anyone, and Roderick makes a wooden coffin, and then siblings bury her. That night, Eliza breaks out of the coffin. She goes to William's house and chokes him to death, and also dies with him. In the present, Roderick sees her mother's spirit behind Dupin, which scares him. 2 weeks ago, while presenting the case against Roderick, Dupin named a prosecutor from Roderick's family but did not mention his name in court. Every usher is shocked to hear this, and after that, Roderick asks Madeline to call all of their family at the dinner. Roderick is expecting his children with his new wife Juno, and Juno says, they don't like me. Roderick says they'll love you because they fear getting cut out of will. The family members are together at the dinner table, and Roderick announces, I'll give $50 million to whoever catches the culprit. Roderick says to Dupin, I'm responsible for my children's death and perhaps a woman named Verna. While attending the funeral of his last child at the church, Roderick is horrified to see a masked woman who only he can see. Coming out, Roderick suddenly collapses and starts bleeding from the nose, saying that it's time. In 1979, young Dupin investigated a grave from which the body disappeared. His senior asks him to stop doing this because he's not a police officer. Dupin said that 5 bodies disappeared from the graves and the police aren't doing anything. Dupin thinks maybe the Fortunato company is running drug tests on those bodies. In the present, Roderick says it's important to build the legacy. He feared to see his boy's ghost and starts telling the death story of his boy Prospero. Frederick Usher, Roderick's eldest son, claims to several lawyers that their old labs have been closed and that they sold those buildings. Perry comes there and without thinking tells them these buildings are still under their control. Frederick takes him outside, telling him to shut his mouth, and asks him to leave. Perry goes to the building with his friends Jenny and Faraj. He tells them to set up this building for the private party. Perry says every member will pay 20 grand when they enjoy the sex and wine. Perry wants to do this because Roderick refused to give him business money, so now he wants to use the labs for the business. Victorine Usher, Roderick's daughter, runs a drug test on a monkey, but the monkey dies. Her girlfriend Alessandra tries to calm her, and she says at this rate, Dad will stop funding her. After this, Roderick tells Victorine to complete her research and then take human trials. Roderick gives her a 6-month deadline and asks her if they are going to lose $200 million, he will stop funding her. Perry goes to invite Frederick's wife Morella to the sex party, but she refuses. Perry admires her beauty, asking her to join him, and leaves. The party has been started and Morella also reaches there. A masked woman arrives at the party who meets Perry and asks him to join her in the room. She turns out to be Verna, but Perry doesn't know her. After talking for a while, Verna leaves the room and Perry runs to see her, but she disappears. The party is at its peak, and as they start sprinklers, there is acid instead of water, and everyone there dies. Verna appears again, she kisses Perry saying him pretty, and leaves. Arthur Pym, Usher's lawyer, goes inside the building where he finds a survivor. Roderick tells Dupin, we set those buildings for illegal work but failed to close the labs. The survivor turns out to be Morella, and Roderick asks Arthur to keep the matter underground, and they will tell the media that they don't know about the party. Frederick arrives and Roderick says she had a bad accident because Frederick doesn't know about the party. Madeline gathers Camille, Tammy, Victorine, and Leo to tell them about Perry's death. Camille, who represents the news, tells them we need people's sympathy to escape this case now. Madeline asks how, and Camille tells them we'll tell people about Perry's donations. Madeline and everyone else agree. Camille tasks her assistants Toby and Beth to investigate Victorine Lab so she can expose her work. Verna now meets Victorine and tells her that I am a heart patient. Victorine takes her files and asks him to get a heart transplant, and Verna agrees. Leo and his boyfriend Julius ask Camille for the drugs party, but she refuses, telling him to stop using drugs and focus on his life. Leo says, I'm developing my video games because I'm not interested in the family business like you guys. Dupin asks Roderick, your son died because of your drugs, which makes him angry. He gets up for a drink and is afraid to see a ghost, and Dupin just looks on in amazement. Dupont asks him about the Ligodone drug and the story goes to the flashback. Roderick goes to Rufus, whom he gave Ligodone drug idea. Rufus betrays him and offers him $500 check and a job in his company. Roderick tells Madeline and his wife Annabelle about the proposal. Madeline asks him to work and charge Rufus at the right time. Lenore goes to see her mother in the hospital, but she is scared to see her burned face and Morella starts scratching her mouth. Toby and Beth go to Camille and she asks them to have fun with her. They refuse to do it while Camille remembers them the agreement. Beth tells her they can't do this anymore, they're going to marry, and Camille fires them. Tammy hires a prostitute to fix her physical problems with her husband. Verna moves into their house instead. Tammy sits down separately and seeing Verna with her husband, she feels seductive. On the other hand, Camille goes to Victorine's lab and starts taking pictures of the experimented monkeys to expose her. Suddenly, Verna appears in front of her and says, "You are as selfish as your father who only sees her benefits." Verna's chest has been stitched and screaming in pain, she attacks Camille in chimpanzee shape. The next day, two doctors find Camille dead, and the chimpanzee sitting next to her. Leo buys a cat for his boyfriend, and Verna gives him a black cat. He returns home and gets the news of Camille's death. Roderick gathers his remaining children and says the war has been started and now you've to do what I say. Arthur shows Roderick and Madeline the CCTV video of the lab, but they can't recognize Verna. Roderick asks him to enhance the picture so they can find the woman. After this, Roderick asks Victorine if she had done anything which is related to Camille's death. Victorine becomes angry to hear this and Roderick asks her about the ongoing experiments. He warns her to stop funding and Victorine says our device has been ready and they are going to do human trials. Arthur sends him and Madeline the picture of the woman and they are shocked to see Verna. Leo starts getting hallucinations of the cat and seeing his actions. Julius asks him not to take much drugs. Verna arrives at Leo's house as he calls her to take back the cat. Verna tells him the cat is inside the walls and disappears while Leo starts breaking the walls to hear the cat's voice. Julius returns home and is shocked to see the apartment's wall and Leo's condition is much worse. Seeing the cat on the balcony, and before Julius can stop him, Leo runs to kill her but he falls and dies. Annabella arrives and asks Victorine to stop human trials as they aren't ready for yet. Victorine tells her that her father will stop funding and it's important to run our business. Annabella still refuses and she tells her, "You were nothing before me, I spend my money at you." Annabella says, "I'll tell others about your project," and starts to leave, and enraged Victorine throws a bowl at her. Some days later, Roderick asks Victorine about the trials but she is scared of something. Roderick checks the room and finds Annabella's dead body and an artificial heart beats in her chest. Victorine becomes sick as she kills her and then uses her as a prototype. She puts a knife on Roderick and then stabs herself and dies. At the launch of her new product, Tammy loses control seeing Verna in the crowd. She becomes scared and throws the mic at Juno. Madeline also sees Verna and there's nothing except her spirit. Tammy reaches home where she sees Verna's spirit. She sees her in mirrors and starts breaking them one by one. Shards of the glass fall on her feet and mouth and screaming in pain, she asks her to leave. Looking at her at the ceiling, Tammy attempts to kill her and the ceiling's glass breaks and falls on her, which kills her. Back on New Year's Eve, 1979, Madeline and Roderick entered into some sort of deal with Verna, and it is because of this deal that all of these deaths are occurring. It is time to pay the Reaper, as it were. But Madeline wants to renegotiate terms. It is impossible. So Madeline breaks Verna's neck. It's a cute little power move, but Verna can't be killed and the deal can't be changed now. The last living Usher child meets a gruesome end that he mostly brings upon himself. After taking a bump of coke and then peeing on the floor as a way to tell Perry to rest and pee, something happens to him. Verna appears to inform that it wasn't cocaine he ingested, it was the paralytic he's been giving Maury. Verna uses Freddy's voice to give the all clear and the wrecking ball crashes through the building. She sits with Freddy as some of the debris forms a makeshift pendulum with quite the sharp edge. He's on his way just as the entire building comes down on top of him. The final Usher child is dead. Roderick confesses to Dupont and invites Madeline to the old house. He kills her and replaces her eyes with sapphires. Madeline emerges from the basement, blind and deranged, and strangles Roderick. The house collapses in the storm, ending the Usher family. Dupont retires and closes his case on Fortunato. Juno inherits Fortunato and the Usher fortune. Pim is arrested and spends the rest of his life in prison. Verna leaves a token on each Usher grave while reciting Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos.